We would like to proceed to the next technical session. That's from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. And I would request Dr. Annie Gladys, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, NMCC, Marthandam. Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I hope you have got the presenters list with you.
Yes, ma'am, I have the list for there are four
Uh,
presenters.
I'll just, I'll just say the names. You can just verify it. Syed Mohammad Jawad, Ritika Kumari, Rangoli Agarwal, and Ritu Parna Priyadarshini. Ma'am, am I clear?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah,
Okay, ma'am. So I just hand over the session to you. Thank you.
thank you. Good afternoon. It's indeed a privilege to chair this technical session of the International Conference on Language, Literature, and Social Sciences organized by Anai Velankani College, Tolavatam. And so in this fourth session, we have four presenters, and I think each presenters can take 10 to 12 minutes, and then we'll have 3 minutes for discussion or interaction. Yeah, let us begin with Dr. Syed Mohammad Jawad, Assistant Professor in Persian GDC Buddha, Jammu and Kashmir, India, and his topic is Persian role of Indian women in medieval era. Uh, Dr. Syed Mohammad, I think is not here. So let's move to the next presenter, Ritika Kumari. Ritika Kumari?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah, Ritika Kumari, the research scholar, Department of English and Faculty of Arts, BHU, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. And her topic is a study of ecofeminism and afterwards by Jayashree Mishra.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
And now I'm sharing my screen. Kindly let me know if it's visible or not.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ma'am,
yeah,
is it visible?
yes, it is visible. You can proceed.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So my topic is a study of ecofeminism in afterwards by Jayashree Mishra. So let's start the paper. And in the introductory part, let's start with the comprehensive understanding and interaction between the human being and the environment makes the planet a better place to live in. When the relationship is disrupted by the industrialization, globalization, capitalism, consumerism, and over exploitation of resources, it leads to disbalance and degeneration of it. As Frantz Fanon says in his path-breaking book, The Rest of the Earth, I quote, capitalism, its expansionist phase, regarded the colonies as a source of raw materials which once possessed could be unloaded on the European market. Europe is literally the creation of the third world. The wealth which smothers her is that which was stolen from the underdeveloped peoples. Unquote. In the name of industrialization, capitalization, globalization, and modernization, It is the marginalized sector which has suffered the most. Women, poor, and the Adivasis or the tribals are doubly victimized. This ecological crisis has given way to many studies, philosophies, and theories to solve environmental problems. The emergence of environmental studies as an academic discipline started in the 1950s. Later in the 1980s, it gave birth to a new concept emerging as a different theoretical field called ecofeminism. The term ecofeminism was coined by Francoise de Yobon in 1974 in her book Feminism or Death: How the Women's Movement Can Save the Planet. It was originally published in French, later translated in English by French feminist scholar Ruth Hotel. This women-led activism explores and discusses the ambivalent relationship between women, environment, and space. As Sangeeta Patil rightly opens, I quote, the logic behind the identity politics of feminism was that man exploits both women and nature, and hence the common target of the discourse on nature and women is patriarchy. Unquote. An Indian physicist and environmental activist, Vandana Shiva, defined nature or Prakriti as the feminine principle as the basis for development which conserves and is ecological. Feminism as ecology and ecology as the revival of Prakriti, that is, the source of all life. In India, there seems to be a natural alliance of women with nature and the way they regulate many powerful women-led environmental activism the way they regulate environmental movements. India has already seen many powerful women-led environmental activism in the 1970s, popularly known as Chipko movement. Women protested against deforestation, mining, and other such environmental concerns by tree hugging. In addition to these heroic women, there are other masses of women who are fighting for the environmental cause directly or indirectly. Literature has always been Literature has always been known for portraying various social concerns and couldn't have remained untouched by this crucial issue of the day. There are many Indian ecofeminists who have given their seminal contribution in this field, like Vandana Shiva's Ecofeminism, published in 1993, Bina Agrawal's Environmental Management, Equity and Ecofeminism, Debating India's Experience, published in 1998, Chaya Dattar's Ecofeminism Revisited, published in 2011, and Manisha Rao's Theory and Practice of Ecofeminism in India and Analysis, published in 1996. The insights of these work help us to understand the problems of marginalized human and nature. Uh, sorry. Women writers in Indian English fiction have engaged themselves with a range of issues of gender and environment. Novels like Kamala Markand's Nectar in a Sea, published in 1954, written immediately after post-independence, is classified as social realism. They broadly discuss they broadly discuss the emergence of the tannery in the village and the resultant effect on the environment and the people. Later came the novels of Anita Desai, like Cry the Peacock, Fire on the Mountain, which cover the span of almost a decade, that is 1916 to 1970s, emphasizing more on the condition of women in Indian society during that time. In the 1990s came women writers like Geeta Mehta's, whose work A River Sutra, Sohela Abudali, The Women of Jagore, and Arundhati Roy, The God of Small Things, gave their literary contribution when India had become a powerhouse, giving ways to different manufacturing and mining industries, foreign investments, and coming up of multinational companies. Furthermore, from 2000 onwards, globalization became the buzzword and saw the immediate rise of call centers, mall culture, and dream of climbing the social and corporate ladders. These are represented by the literary works like The Inheritance of Loss by Kiran Desai, and Atlas of Longing by Anuradha Roy, Monkey Man by Usha Kesara, Indra Sinha's Animal Planet, and Sarah Joseph's Gift in Green. Not exactly in the similar fashion, but the contemporary Indian English novelist Jaishi Mishra has also established recognition as a women writer broadly engaged in feminist discourse. She has written a range of novels like Ancient Promises, published in 2000, Ancient Accents Like Love and Marriage, published in 2001, afterwards published in 2004, Rani, published in 2007, a trilogy, Secrets and Lies, Secrets and Sins, and Secrets and a Scandalous Secret. And there is also a non-fiction written by her named A House for Mr. Mishra that was published in 2017. This paper attempts to analyze her third novel afterwards, highlighting the relationship between literary text and the problems with regard to gender and environmental degradation. The novel is about a woman named Maya who is trapped in a loveless, suspicious, and unhappy marriage with Govind. The novel starts with the last rites of Maya, who is still alive. It further takes us back to Kerala, where the whole thing started. Throughout the novel, the climate in the background sets the mood of the novel. The very first page of the novel says, I quote, "The summer the monsoons failed." That was in February 1996, the year of that terrible summer, when the monsoons failed and the canals across Kerala lay still and brooding, shrouded in stench. Unquote. The scorchy hot climate of Kerala in some way represents the hot, angry, and suspicious nature of Govind, Maya's husband. Maya, being the victim of domestic violence, always remained alarmed of what Govind is going to do her next. The coming of a new neighbor, Rahul, is seen as a ray of hope in the life of both Maya and her daughter Anjali. Rahul, who initially regrets coming to Kerala, noticing, I quote, "the heat rise over the horizon, making the palm tree melt," unquote, turns out to be the survivor of Maya's life. Rahul helps Maya in escaping the painful and oppressive life she has with her husband. Escaping of Maya from India to London with Anjali and Rahul in search of happiness, love, and freedom turns out to be very unfortunate. Far from India, in the busy, grey, noisy, bustling, and buzzing city London, Maya meets with a fatal car accident and loses her life. By getting away from the harshness of Kerala, Maya is not able to survive the coldness of the city London, where people seem to be much more hostile, obnoxious, and indifferent. Eventually, Rahul, the love of her life, brings her back to the land in the form of her ashes. The mingling of Maya's ashes into the river suggests how she was the part of this river, wind present everywhere and everything. The sprinkling, gleaming, warm, clear, and all accepting motherly river unburdens Maya of all her pains, suffering, guilt, secrets, sadness, and blames. Ultimately, it is the nature which takes her back with all her imperfections without any objection. Now comes the conclusion. Once now comes the conclusion. So this is a novel afterwards. And so I conclude. The sketchy view of the novel raises many questions on the policies of government and contribution of every individual in making Earth a better place to live in. There are times when women succumb to the situation, but they are not only the sufferers, they even act as survivors both for human and environment. Hence, the reading of the literary text would transform the thinking of the readers and envision a better life for a better future for all lives, both human and non-human. Thank you. Wait a second.
Thank you,
Yeah, ma'am.
observation. Yeah.
One second. Yeah. Thank you
What's the
so much.
topic? Yeah. Uh, So from the participants, is there any question? So your observations. So in the text tab,
Yes, ma'am.
um, so there is an oft quoted phrase, happily ever after. So can you elaborate on it? Happily ever after. Hello. Can you connect this happily ever after with ecofeminism? Is my voice audible?
Hello, ma'am. I'm
Ah,
sorry, ma'am. I just muted. Yeah, so I think that, ma'am, there's nothing like happily ever after, because with every now and then the challenges keeps on coming, and therefore, if in the perspective of the text, if we use, then the happily ever after, the Rahul whose love of the life has recently has died, and he has left all alone, because even the daughter of Maya has gone to her biological father. He says that there's nothing like happily ever after, and afterwards is there. It's not that the story ends after everything gets over. There is an afterward, but it's not sure that that afterward will always be a happy one.
okay. So you mentioned this, some questions were arising in the novel to the purposes of the government. So throw light on it.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm not able to hear. Once again, please, can you say?
Excuse me.
Ritika, could you please unmute? Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and ma'am, you can.
You have made a reference to the policies of the government, right? With regard to nature. So can
Yes, ma'am.
you throw light on it at extent?
Ma'am, I think there are ample of policies which have been made by the government, but it totally depends on the individual to individual how we act towards our society as an individual. What is our contribution? So even though there are policies and they have their own loopholes, but on my part, I think that one individual should pay his or her own role in the society in making our place a better place to live in. So that is what my take is.
Thank you. Best wishes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Uh, so the next present is Rangoli Agarwal, research scholar from Amity University, Noida. The topic is travel, sustainability, and women, an environmental study of the shooting star.
Mr. Rangoli Agrawal, I hope you're there. Mr. Rangoli Agrawal. Okay, ma'am, we'll move on to the next person.
Okay. The next is Ms. Ritu Parna Priyadarshini, a research scholar from the School of Humanities, KIT University, Bhubaneswar. Ritu Parna,
Yeah, she's there.
she's there. Okay. So her topic is the spiritual and religious progress of Odia tribes, a poetic study. So Ms. Ritu Parna, you may proceed.
Rituparna Priyadarshini, could you please unmute and begin the session? Rituparna Priyadarshini. Could you please present your paper? She's there.
Yeah, she's there, but
Rituparna Priyadarshini of the research scholar of School of Humanities, KIT University, Bhubaneswar. I think she's not.
yeah, maybe not sure.
She's there, but I don't know why she's not able to hear. Okay, Rangoli Agrawal, sir, are you there? No. No, she's left. Rituparna Priyadarshini, ma'am, are you there? Okay, ma'am. Is there anyone who wants to ask questions to Ritika Upadhyay in the previous paper presentation session? No. Okay, ma'am.
So
think I think we'll wind up because they are not responding.
yeah,
Okay. Okay, ma'am, you can conclude.
okay. I express my gratitude to the organizers and the coordinators of this international conference, and also I thank the organizers, um, Dr. Joan and Dr. Meena Teresa for giving me this opportunity, and also I thank all the paper presenters and the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sparing your time and to be the chairperson here. Really, it was good sharing moments with you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we'll proceed on to the next technical session, headed by Dr. Sunita ma'am of Associate Professor of Nesamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam. Sunita ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am. You can take on your session. I think you have the list of the participants, presenters. I'll just read out the names. Dr. Mohammad Afroz Alam, Dr. Asif Abrar, Dr. Disha Khanna, and Pooja Rani. I think you have the list, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to you all.
Okay, ma'am.
It's indeed a great day for all of us. We have been listening to various lectures, paper presentations, and reviews from morning itself. So it has been a fruitful day for all of us. Let me thank the organizers for giving me such a good opportunity to chair this session. Especially, I have to thank Dr. Stalin, Assistant Professor of NMCC, for giving me such a wonderful chance. I thank Amina Alexander ma'am too. And now, in this session, we have 4 paper presentations. First, Dr. Mohammad Afroz Alam, he is going to present a paper on analysis of historical development of metacognitive theories. And the next, second one is Dr. Asif Abrar. He's going to present about casteism, women, and exploitation of Dalits in Burma's Karukul. And the third person is Dr. Disha Khanna. He's going to present in the title Tough Woman in Meena Kandaswamy's poetic work, Miss Militancy. And the fourth one is Pooja Rani. She's Pooja Rani, research scholar. She's going to present a paper entitled as Resonance of Existentialism in Mary Shelley's the last man. So when we talk about the metacognitive theories, that is the first paper, no? Analysis of historical development of metacognitive theories. So metacognition means in simple terms, that is thinking about one's thinking. It is a critical awareness of one's thinking and learning. It refers to a process used to plan, monitor, and assess one's understanding and performance. It is all about the thought processes. So it's really a challenging title. Now I invite Dr. Mohammad Afroz Alam, the Assistant Professor of Maulana Azad National Urdu University, to present his paper. Sir, please. Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, I think it's not there.
Yeah, he's not there. Maybe the time is from 3 o'clock onwards, no, ma'am?
Yes, that's right. But
Okay.
there's a previous session presenter, Rangoli Agrawal. I think,
I think Annie Gladys ma'am is there, ma'am. So you can ask her to
yeah,
proceed
let
with
me
that.
check because just now she joined again. Just now she joined again. So let me
Yes.
see.
Okay. I'll wait.
Rangoli Agarwal.
Hi, am I audible? I am present here.
Yes, yes, yes. Because first we called you, but we couldn't hear you. Ma'am, are
I'm
you
sorry.
ready?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I am ready. I can
Okay, so
start presenting if
and
you allow
Gladys
me.
ma'am, please. And Gladys ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. You can ask her to begin. Okay.
Ms. Rangoli Agarwal. You may
Yes,
begin
yes,
your
please.
presentation titled Travel, Sustainability and Women, an Environmental Study of the Shooting Star.
Yes, I'll start presenting. Thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. A very good afternoon. And I'll just share my screen. Yeah, okay. So I'm Ragoli Agrawal. I'm a PhD scholar of English in Amity Institute of English Studies and Research, Amity University. And this paper is co-authored by Dr. Shuchi Agrawal, and she is a professor at English at Amity University of English Studies. The topic of my paper is Travel, Sustainability and Women, an environmental study of the shooting star by Shivya Nath. So this is a work by Shivya Nath, the shooting star, on which I'm going to present a paper from the perspective along with the concept of women. So to begin with, I'm going to talk about modern day travel and related environmental concerns. So as far as we know, travel is a very complex concept, which is generally seen under the lens of a very leisurely activity or to break free from the hiatus of an inner lifestyle. Though travel is not just not just limited to that, it can also be sometimes be a result of very circumstances which can be very serious as well. But in general, it is studied mostly in heuristic sense, to know oneself, to bring into ideation other people's culture, and to know beyond what one already does. As soon as you start leaving your home, you get to know things beyond what you already know. So, but according to this, the special cognizance being lately accorded to protection of environment is in lieu of very unworried lifestyle and travel practices. The travel and tourism companies today have been promoting travel in very unsustainable ways, resulting in high carbon footprints. Okay. Uh, the concept of luxury travel is a newfound trend of travel of the 21st century, which has been taking a heavy toll on environmental resources, directly affecting the quality of air, potable water, and drastically reducing the green covers. So, this is the modern trend I'm talking here about, which is directly affecting and having very high carbon footprints on the environment, which is definitely not environmental friendly. I quote, amongst the least contested issues regarding the impact of tourism concerns its contribution to environmental degradation. A 2018 study estimated that including tourist, food, hotel, shopping, and travel, tourism.
Excuse me, Ms. Rangoli. So we could see only the first slide, right? But
Okay.
yeah. Could you please move the slide?
Should I scroll back?
Yeah, it's in the first screen, right?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, scroll to the.
Is this one that you are talking about?
The screen we could see is the first slide.
Okay, the slides are not moving forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and start sharing once again. Just give me a second. Okay, is it visible now? I can start presenting from here directly.
Yeah, yeah. Right. It's visible now.
Okay, now is it getting navigated? Okay, yeah. So I was here on the fourth slide. Okay, so I was quoting amongst the least contested issues regarding the impact of tourism concerns its contribution to environmental degradation. A 2018 study estimated that including tourist food, hotel, shopping, and travel, tourism accounted for 8% of global greenhouse emissions. And I unquote. So this is a very high effect of tourism, a very negative impact of tourism, which we can see on the environment, which is generally not accounted for. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the text which I have taken and researched on, which is The Shooting Star by Shivya Nath. Okay. The Shooting Star, A Girl, Her Backpack, and the World is the full title of the text. It is a major travel memoir it is a 2018 memoir. It does not merely document the travel narratives by a female traveler, but also reflects on the looming environmental issues which have been threatening our planet in perilous ways, mainly due to the impetuous lifestyle of human civilization. So, when she undertakes travel, she realizes that it's not just about travel being travel, but it is also going to be about some conscious traveling, which one needs to undertake. Otherwise, the consequences of it are going to be very serious. Shivya Nath in her memoir advocates the need of conscious travel while advocating the need of travel for women, both environmental women being a subject of exploitation, leading to the concept of ecofeminism. So here I introduce the term ecofeminism, which I am going to elaborate in my next slide here. So the term ecofeminism was coined by French feminist Francoise Ebon in 1974. It was around the same time that the environmental movements, mainly advocated by women, had started gaining momentum as the environmental concerns were coming to light. Prior to 1980s, women's efforts in conservation of environment were very prominent, but unfortunately they were not documented or brought into very serious or useful consideration. So that was the research gap, or we can say the lack of attention which women were receiving. As long as the issue of sustainable development and lifestyle continues, it becomes essential to take into account women's participation in protection and conservation of environment through active participation in the environmentalist movements. Some of the greatest environmental movements like Chipko Andolan, Green Belt movement, and Navdanya movement have been, as a matter of fact, initiated by women, but they are not as much talked about or as much paid accountability to as the other movements which have been efforts which have been taken by men. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the unconditional devotion of women towards environment, which has been the case since years, but has not been paid much heed to. So in the early 1960s, an interest in women and their connection with the environment was sparked largely by a book written by Esther Bosro entitled Women's Role in Economic Development, which she advocated in which she advocated the idea of ecofeminism, establishing the relationship between women and their dedicated efforts towards saving the environment, thus resulting in economic development. Prior to that, otherwise, women were just considered as a product of the society and not as a very useful resource to society. So, in her work, Bostro pointed out how women have a very close relationship to nature, and their efforts can seriously result in economic development. Another ecofeminist which we cannot miss talking about is Vandana Shiva, who was an Indian origin, an author of Indian origin, who played an important role in global ecofeminist movement. She suggested the engagement of women in productive and sustainable agricultural practices in her work Empowering Women. It is just one of the other many works she wrote, and she has had a very remarkable impact on the concept of ecofeminism and women participation in the environmental efforts. So now, if we come to talk about what are the environmental issues in travel industry specifically, so this is where it comes from. The technological adoptions and constant technological upgradations, they are serving inconvenient travel behaviors, but they are a major catalyst in environmental degradation. Social media platforms have been promoting travel by locating environmentally rich places as hidden, offbeat, pristine, or undiscovered, only to be made viral virtually, hence resulting in soaring percentage of mass tourism each year. So this is the result of the technological upgradations which have been going on and been documented in a very positive light, but the negative impact of them have been largely ignored. Uh, to Shivyanath's dismay in her memoir, The Shooting Star, and I quote, had impulsively left Leh, the capital of Ladakh, disappointed by the erosion of its traditional life caused by the allure of mass tourism. And I unquote. So, in her memoir, Shivyanath points out how she was traveling to Leh, the capital of Ladakh, and she realized that the very scarce resources which are there in the mountains, which is originally the case of the mountains, the scarcity of water or the scarcity of any other luxury benefits in the valleys, they have been now started being promoted in the light of luxury travel. Okay, and it is seen in a very positive light that even Leh now has the supply of regular water, running water in taps and everything for 24 hours. But the negative impacts of them have been largely ignored. No one realizes how these resources are being exploited and made to be made available there. Okay. Uh, Now I've established the case of environmental concerns by the classical authors. So environmental concern is something which has been documented since early 20th century itself. American transcendentalists like Emerson and Thoreau and the advocates of romantic movement like Wordsworth and Coleridge have composed their best works advocating the benefits of nature, hence employing reasons of its preservation. As Thoreau puts it, and I quote, I wish to speak a word for nature, for absolute freedom and wildness as contrasted with a freedom and culture merely civil, to regard man as an inhabitant or a part and parcel of nature rather than a member of society. So we are more here, of course, Thoreau, as he also always did. He spiritually connected man and nature, and instead of just seeing man as a very physical or very very solid thing of nature, he establishes a very close connection of nature and man in a very abstract sense and spiritual sense. There was an early awareness of potential ecological damage from tourism. In 1799, the British poet William Wordsworth made critical use of the word tourist in his poem The Brothers. Wordsworth was concerned that over visitation by tourists to areas of natural beauty, such as the Lake District of northern England, would transform the landscape and destroy the genuineness of experiencing the place in its natural features, right? So this is one of the most important concerns, that though luxury travel and all the mass tourism and things have been promoting travel in a very very heuristic sense, or we can say in a very artificial manner, but the genuineness of experiencing the place in its raw beauty, in its raw sense, has been largely lost. Now, as ecofeminism suggests, and it is a very important component of ecofeminism, there is a parallel between struggle of women and struggle of environment. Okay, and both of them stem out from the result of patriarchy, we can say. Shivyanath, in a travel memoir, mentions the skepticism and resistance she received when she declared her decision of becoming a full-time traveler, only because she is a young woman and the road might not be a safe place for her. As the ecofeminist suggests, society still reflects on patriarchal values for women to be able to take their life decisions. Similar is the case of Shivyanath, who struggles to travel the world being a woman, only to later realize during her travels that nature is also being exploited and defeated by the patriarchal supremacy. So this is something which I wanted to bring to light in my paper, and which is, I believe, a very important component of ecofeminism, that the patriarchal supremacy is still dominant in the 21st century, still dominant in 2022, and is still not being enough talked about. So I here head to my conclusion part of the presentation. And what I've mentioned is sustainability is the fundamental essence of existence. Sustainability is required to fulfill one's basic food and nutrition requirements, and also to be able to save enough for our future generations. It's not just we who have who want to meet our requirements, and hence we need to head towards sustainability, but also for our future generations. Through the travel memoir by Shivyanath, it becomes clear that there is an alarming need of sustainable practices, especially in the travel and tourism field. It also becomes clear that the need of sustainable development has been in picture since at least last 50 years, but the current tourist practices and advancement towards luxury travel has only blurred the future of sustainable development. To conclude, women have a deeper sense to concern towards sustaining the environment, and the efforts by women activists and environmentalists must be brought into serious consideration. It is also important to document all important efforts and results of environment conservation by the women so as to be able to bring into society's notice for them to inculcate better lifestyle choices and sustainable practices. It is also necessary to break free from the patriarchal code, which encapsulates both women and environment, both being the building blocks of sustenance to life. It is also important for women to be able to act mobile and travel at their own discretion for the welfare of nature as well as society. So, thank you. I'm done with my presentation. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rivoli, for your in-depth research on travel sustainability in the shooting star. So, is there any questions from the participants, the presenters? So, could you please substantiate the conscious travel and the subconscious travel?
Okay, so the conscious travel which I'm talking about is, see, subconscious is not very close related to the conscious travel which I'm using the term here in the sense of. So what I'm talking about in the sense of conscious travel is, and of course Shivya Nath herself has used this term conscious travel in her memoir and in her blogs and everywhere. She's promoting this. So conscious travel refers to a travel which just does not defeat a place or penetrate a place or just does not visit a place, but we as people, as tourists, also visit a place in a sense where we can think of its sustenance, think of nature and its protection, and not just only use it for our own benefit of good sightseeing or pleasant environment and good resources, to extract good resources from that. So this is the conscious travel we are referring to here.
So, does Shivya Nath make any reference to the sustainable practices to be practiced according to her observation?
Yes, she does, and some of the most important practices she advocates are one of them being slow travel. Okay, so slow travel refers to a travel where you just do not hop places just to tick off the places in your bucket list, but she advocates that you go to a place, live there for longer periods, and also not travel by plane. You instead choose trains or maybe other local modes of transport so that you can start exploring the cultures of a particular place, as well as at the same time you can save the planet from more carbon footprint. Okay, so this is how she is advocating the need of conscious travel.
Is there any questions from the participants? So it was indeed nice listening to you. The about travel, luxury travel and slow travel. And thank you, Ms. Rangoli Agarwal. Best wishes.
Thank you so much.
So we have, I think, Ms. Ritu Parna Priyadarshini. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Uh, so, Ms. Ritu Parna Priyadarshini, she's a research scholar from the School of Humanities, KT University, Bhubaneswar. And her topic is the spiritual and religious progress of Odia tribes, a poetic study. So now I invite Ms. Ritu Parna to present the session.
Ma'am, actually, there has been some changes because I am not able to access to join the meet through my laptop, so I'm not able to present uh, the slides I have prepared. So, ma'am, can I just do my presentation on the video call?
Yeah, that, yeah, you can do it.
Okay.
Proceed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just give me a sec. Okay, so my topic is the spiritual and religious progress of Odia tribes, a poetic study. As we know, each tribal community have their own set of religion, customs, and traditions, and so does every Odia tribal community. And religion has always played a very vital role. And in the religious and the tribal communities are usually studied in their religious context, as in their modes of worship, the gods and goddesses they uh, 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 worship, and their customs, rituals, and traditions. So, with time, religion has undergone various changes, and in a way, it has become a weapon against various social injustice. So, now the tribal communities they have also made use of religion as a tool to fight against all sort of social evils that they were subjected to in the past and are still being subjected to, but in a more systematic manner. So, but as we can see from the various studies that have already been done on tribal communities, we can see that even the very researches, the very studies have always focused on only one aspect of these communities, on the religious aspects or the vulnerable aspects of these communities, and have in a way, may perhaps unknowingly, but there is always this underlying sentiment that they are being oppressed, and they always focus on the vulnerable aspects of the communities. So, and how they have been exploited. But now, these communities are trying to break free from these narratives, and they're trying to establish their own identities, that they are much more than what they have been portrayed since ages. They are not only a community that has always been oppressed. There have been some changes. They have made some they have established themselves. They have on their own strength, on their own credibility, they have established themselves as an equal part of the society, as they should be. So even though despite several measures, social injustice against the tribal communities still exist in the society, they are now trying to relinquish these terms that they were once referred to by their own effort, um, by talking about the betterment. They have now started talking about the betterment of the whole society, of which their community is a part, and not focus on their own religious practices or their own communities itself, because they are now considering themselves as an equal part of the society, contrary to the past, where they have been where the caste or community based discrimination was the order of the day. So for this, to show this the progress, the religious and spiritual progress of Odia tribes, I have taken for reference the poetic works of Bhimabhoi, Sitakan Mahapatra, and Haldar Nag. So, from a cultural perspective, it is shown how the tribal communities are now emphasizing on the betterment of society as a whole, of which their community is a part, and are trying to relinquish the terms which they were once referred to while representing their culture and custom in all its glory. They have not forgotten their roots, but they have also not restricted themselves to their communities alone. They have started exploring they have not started exploring the whole religion, the other religion as well, but they have also started considering themselves as part of the whole society, and not restrict themselves to their own religion alone. So we see in the works of Boi, Mahapatra, and Nag the evolution of tribal communities from restricted to their community to fighting against oppression through religion, and then from finally exerting themselves as equal and essential parts of society to working towards the development of society as a whole. Firstly, we'll start with the works of Sitakan Mahapatra, who he's not a tribal poet, but he has worked on with tribal communities and on tribal communities for a long time, and most of his works are based on that. So I've taken for reference his transcreations, in which he has translated the folk songs of Odia tribals. There's one collection, the Poetry of the Cones, in which he mentions the religious practices, the customs, the traditions, the gods and goddesses, the worship, and their modes of worship, the way they celebrate their festivals, the songs of the festival. So he has very minutely described, elaborated on every religious aspect of these communities. So we see that Sitakant Mahapatra, being a non-tribal poet, he has focused primarily on the religious aspect of the tribe of the community, and he has elaborated on it. So from his narration, we get a overview of the community and their religious practices. So these practices have been there since the beginning of the community. So and then when we look at Bhima Bhoi's poetry, which is said to be based in the 1800s, we see that Bhima Bhoi was, since his childhood, being a Kond, he was subjected to various social injustice, and and as he grew up, he chose to leave behind his culture and community and to adapt another cult, which was started by Mahima Swami and was known as Mahima Dharma. So Mahima Swami started the Mahima cult, but it was Bhima Bhoi who propagated the cult that started, and he tried to, through this cult, he tried to bring about reformations in the society, and to fight against the rampant social injustice of the 1800s that he witnessed, that he was subjected to, like the discrimination done against women, like the discrimination done on the basis of caste and community. So he tried to bring about reformation in the society. But we also see that because of the injustice he was subjected to, he tried to break away from his own community and the culture that was imposed on them by the elitist religious hierarchy, and he tried to form a new identity or a new community culture for himself and for other people to join, who wanted to leave behind all that was all the social injustice that they were being subjected to. So we see that religion has given them that liberty, that freedom to choose their own individualities and to pursue they pursue their own choices. So we see that from being restricted to the community, like we witnessed in Sitakan Mahapatra's poetry, which is a translation of various folk songs. As after a certain point, after being subjected to various social injustice, they tried to break away from it and create an identity of their own, and not adhere to the religious practices that they were born into, or that were imposed on them by the religious hierarchies. Likewise, when we come to the when we talk about the present scenario, we have taken for reference the poetry of Haldar Nag, Padma Shri Haldar Nag, who is a contemporary Odia tribal poet, and he talks about the betterment of society, empowering each oppressed section, irrelevant of class, gender, community, and the religious practices and beliefs of Western Odisha. So this modern poet Haldar Nag he is not only talking about his own society, he's not only talking about the betterment of his own people, the betterment of his own community, he's also talking about the betterment of each and every oppressed section, each and every oppressed community, each and every oppressed gender or class. So, as well as he's talking about the religious practices and beliefs of the tribal community and the region he was born into. Unlike Bhima Boy, who left behind his culture, his community, to pursue another cult, to birth, he birthed a new culture just because he wanted to bring some reformation in the society. Uh, Padmashri Haldarnath, he has tried to stick to his roots. He has tried to represent his community, but while talking about the betterment of the whole society and not focus or primarily on the betterment of his own society and his own people. So in a way, we see that from if we look at the folk songs of that Sitakan Mahapatra has translated to Bhimabhoi and Haldanaksa, we can see a progress of the tribes on religious grounds, because at first we saw that there was, in Jatakan Mahapatra's poetry, we saw that they were restricted to their own community, to their religious practices, and they, in a way, they had, as we know, the tribal communities are so, they had no connection whatsoever with the world outside of their community. They even protested against anything that felt imposed, or anything that they felt was foreign to them. So and in next we come to Bhimaboy's poetry, and we see that the social injustice that they were subjected to based on their caste and culture and their and the uh, class they were born into, that made them sort of break away from their community and choose a new community to form a new identity, and to bring about reformation in the society, and to fight against all sort of social evils, and to form an identity where they do not feel oppressed by the elitist religious hierarchies. And then we come to Haldarnak sir, Padmashri Haldarnak, who is a modern poet of contemporary era. So we see that in his poetry, he has talked about his culture. He is owning his culture. He's representing his culture in all its glory, and then as well as talking about the betterment of the whole society, as he acknowledged his community as a part of the whole society, and not and knows that with the betterment of the society, as the society develops, as vision of the vision of a modern society bring comes to life, uh, it will automatically impact his own culture, his own community, and it will automatically, they'll also progress with the whole society. So he is talking about the betterment of the whole society. So basically, my study is an attempt to show how the Odia tribes are progressing and broadening their horizon and molding their religious practices and spirituality to focus on the bigger picture and not let their practices and beliefs restrict them within the limitations of their own culture, while keeping their ritual and culture alive and protesting against any sort of dominance. So, to conclude, I would like to state that despite several measures, there's the social injustice still rampant in the society, and tribal communities are still trying to fight against it. But at the same time, they're still trying to establish their individual identities and not be restricted to as a community or a class that has been oppressed since ages and is still being oppressed. They're trying to bring to light their own individualities and the developments that has taken place within their communities. Secondly, I'd also like to state that it is a popular belief of the modern society that religion is something that restricts people from that restricts people from exploring new fields, or that in many ways, it has also been said, it has also been stated in various studies and researches, that religious in some ways restrict the movement or the development of people. But in this case, we see that the Odia tribes on the religious grounds have been progressing, because religion has given them that scope has been that weapon for them to fight against all sort of social injustice, and has given them to explore their individual identities and not restrict themselves to their communities alone. Thank you.
Ms. Rituparna, it's an exceptional study on the Odia tribes, right? And so, is there any questions from the audience? Um, so, the title is A Spiritual and Religious Progress of Odia Tribes. And could you please distinguish the spiritual beliefs from the religious beliefs? What's the difference between spirituality and the religious progression here?
So, ma'am, as far because it's the question you've asked, it can be quite broad, and there's no one correct answer for this. But as far as my understanding goes, I think religious practices are those that you it's an unspoken set of rules and regulations that are not restricting in a way, but you have to adhere to, like the ritual, like uh, for for example, the community, the religion that we are born into, there are certain festivals in which we have to do perform certain rituals, and we follow that. So religious is, for me, is a set of rules, is an unspoken set of rules and regulations that one follows. And spiritual is something that we when we that we feel internally that we should do this, and we feel connected to something, and we feel this is how we should progress, and this is how we should move on with I'm sorry, I'm not able to explain it properly, but because it's a very complicated term, so I have not been able. I'm not able to explain it properly. But for me, spiritualism is something that is an internalized core value, and religious is something that we are born. That is an unspoken set of rules and regulations that even that we follow, whether we are born into it or something that we choose. But it's a set of rules and regulations that we automatically follow. And spiritualism is an internalized core value that we, in the process of pursuing a particular religion, we adhere to it.
Okay. Um, so, uh, thank you, with Ms. Ritu Parna, for your good observation of the topic on the area of the Odia tribe, spirituality and religious progression. Um, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Meena Teresa.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Meena Teresa, ma'am. What can we do?
Yeah,
Shall
there is one more presenter, I think, hasn't turned up, Ms. Dr. Syed Mohammed Jawad.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as the time is 3:10, maybe we can proceed to the next session, isn't it? Okay. So I once again thank all the organizers and the participants as well. And I express my gratitude to the MA Velankani College staff for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.